My experience with postpartum anxiety and depression is kind of unique, something that I was expecting. I was very familiar with depression. My father actually committed suicide and had very severe depression. So I have dealt with depression throughout my life and I was very prepared. The side that really caught me was the postpartum anxiety. I was not prepared. My first pregnancy, my postpartum experience was very isolating. It all started out with like these I started getting all these fears. So it started out with like me seeing my baby and then like thinking I was going to drop the baby all the time in the hospital. And that was really, really scary for me because I've held so many babies. I've babysat, I've nannied, I've done all the things. Little babies. But when I was holding my own, all I could picture would be like dropping the baby. And so it was really, really scary. And I felt inside just very shameful. And I didn't talk about it at first. And that was problem number one, because I didn't realize like how common it was. And so I didn't talk about it, and I was like just praying like, God, like help me, like Lord, help, like Holy Spirit, like come into me, take these thoughts away, help me. And I would pray that all the time because I would have these terrible thoughts. And like we lived in an apartment and we had a balcony. And all I could picture was my baby falling off the balcony. And I could not, and I had my rocking chair like right there. I had to move the rocking chair because I could not even walk on the balcony. I couldn't even look at the balcony because I was so scared that my baby was going to fall off the balcony. And then when my mom was in town, that was about 2 weeks postpartum, we went to the store and I stayed in the car. And I was just like overwhelmed with this anxiety because all I could think about would be like someone taking my baby and me not being able to do anything about it. And so that was really, really, really isolating, really scary. And then I finally talked to my sister, one of my sisters right above me. And I told her this, and I was like so scared to tell her, and I was crying and I was like just sobbing, but I needed to talk to someone, and I didn't want to tell my husband because, to be quite frank, I was like so ashamed that I was having these like crazy thoughts, or I thought they were crazy. And so I called my sister, and she's had 3 kids of her own. And she's like, Tabby, this is so normal. And I was like, what? Like, I just thought you were just like, I thought I was the only one. And so I definitely felt so isolating. And she shared with me some of her experience, very similar with the anxiety side. And I just was not prepared. I didn't prepare my husband. My husband didn't prepare. He was ready for the depression. He knew my personal experience with depression. He knew my father's. And so we were ready for that. But the anxiety was very, very scary. And then so finally after that, I talked to my husband, and I had the courage to do that. And then we had like a counseling session with our mentors. And after that, I just felt like a huge relief. So that's my thought. My number one tip is to talk to someone that you love and trust. And even the thoughts that you're having, they can be freaky and they can be not what you would consider normal, but they are very normal. And that was the number one thing that helped me, was like, I had the conversation with my sister, I had the conversation with my husband, and then we continued that conversation. And it really gave him kind of like an insight of like, wow, it's not something that always males never really, they can, but they don't oftentimes have like an experience with. And so that was, from then on, I did pray about it a lot, talk to my husband, and eventually it did like ease up. Thank the good Lord, because again, that was a very, very scary time in my life. From the depression side, I didn't have I think I had a little bit of baby blues. I didn't cry a lot. I didn't, the first time I didn't have a lot of those experiences, but that's what I was prepared for. And then with my second pregnancy, I had more of like the baby blues, I would say, and just in the time, it was like in December, and so it was kind of, you weren't outside all the time. It was a little colder outside. You couldn't go outside as much. It was windy, and so that, I think I had a little bit more of the baby blues. And again, with that, if counseling does not help, go see a doctor to get medication or something, because I do think that it's very real. Your hormones are insane, and we need to be on top of it so that it doesn't get out of hand, because it can get out of hand quickly. So for this third pregnancy, what I'm preparing for is just having those conversations early with my husband, and like what they might look like. They're going to look a little different because I have 2 little ones running around, so I can see naturally the anxiety can pop up again. And just really having my husband, but then also my girlfriends, that they get it, they understand, and just really help me through it, and not play to the emotion, but just really have tools in place that will help me get through it. And I think it's one of those things, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but at the beginning with the anxiety, I did not see the light. I was very stuck, and it was so scary, and I really, really hated it. So I know it's so real, and there's definitely been a lot more awareness around it, thank goodness. But if you do need help, seek help, and make sure that you have someone that you love and trust. I would say, like, if it's your first baby, make sure that you have a conversation with your husband so he knows what to look for. Look into postpartum anxiety, do research, and make sure that you have like kind of a support group, that if you do happen to have postpartum anxiety or depression, that you can run to them, and they are equipped to help you first as your first resource. And then from there, have a plan.